that we got for you, that of a Delhi University professor, Mr. Professor GN Saibaba. Well, he's been convicted for an alleged connection with Naxal groups. It's not just him, 5 other people also have been convicted in this case. Well, the quantum of punishment is going to be announced at 3 p.m. later today. That's the big breaking news that we are getting for you. Remember, there was a massive furor when DU Professor GN Saibaba, who remember is wheelchair bound, was kept at the Nagpur jail for the last 3 years. He had also repeatedly asked for bail, which was denied to him and hotly contested, and now he's been convicted for having connections with Naxal groups, essentially for subverting India's security. Well, that's the big breaking news that we are getting for you. Delhi University Professor GN Saibaba has been convicted by the Gadchiroli court. Remember, the Maharashtra government had insisted that he should not be allowed out on bail despite his medical conditions that he had been citing, that he had required bail for, and now he stands convicted. Now, this is going to be a huge blow for him after his conviction. Remember, it's not just him. There are 5 other people also who have been convicted for their roles that they've played and their links to Naxal groups. In fact, this is a long-standing case which has been happening in the Gadchiroli in Maharashtra, to be more precise. Well, Vaishnavi is joining us with more details on that. Vaishnavi, if you can tell us the kind of charges that that Professor Saibaba has been convicted for, and what is the likely quantum of punishment? Vaishnavi, can you hear me? Well, we'll try and reconnect with Vaishnavi and get you more inputs on that. But that's a big breaking story that we are getting for you. This is a Delhi University professor. Remember, he was arrested about 3 years back. He's wheelchair bound. He was arrested 3 years back in 2014. And then he today stands convicted by the Gadchiroli case. The charges that he's facing are rather serious. That of having links with Naxal groups and essentially for subverting India's security. Now, remember, this conviction comes 3 years after the professor being in the Nagpur jail. He had been hotly contesting on medical grounds that he ought to be allowed out on bail. However, the prosecution had been contesting his bail plea, saying that he should not be allowed because he has grievous links to Naxal groups and it should not be allowed to fester on. Remember, there has been a massive fight which has been going on, and on war fitting, we've seen the state governments tackling with the Naxal menace, which has been spread across the entire Red Corridor, and Maharashtra has had its own set of problems when it comes to the Red Menace, and following which we've seen a massive crackdown. Of late, of course, the big states which have been affected by Naxalism in the past, one of them is Maharashtra, and of course Odisha, Chhattisgarh, all of them have had their fair share of problem with Naxalism. Well, I believe Vaishnavi is joining us again. Vaishnavi, I was asking you about the charges that he's been convicted upon, and more importantly, what's likely to be his quantum of punishment then?
Well, Megha, in fact, there are around 7 charges that have been put against Dr. Saibaba, Professor Saibaba, and the 5 others. Now, we also know that he's already spent around 1.5 years, almost more than 1 year in the jail. And after that, last year, he was given a bail for 6 months, and now we see that he's been convicted. So it is to be seen as to, what exactly is going to be the quantum of punishment and how many more years will he have to spend in the jail. But yes, definitely it will mean imprisonment. But how many years of imprisonment is something that the court will decide at 3 o'clock today. And quantum of punishment will be only decided today itself, is what we've been told. Of course, conviction order has been already given. And now we see that considering the fact that Saibaba has already spent few years in the jail, probably the number of years imprisonment rather would reduce. But then there is no clarity as such now. There are some 8 serious charges which have been put against him.
Well, absolutely. He's already been in jail since 2014. In fact, Rishabh Gulati, our executive editor, is also joining us. These are very serious charges that he's been convicted of under UAPA, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, Rishabh.
A major precedent is about to be set at 3 o'clock on what happens with the Delhi University professor. It is not going to be whether he spends X number of months or years in jail. It's going to be on the basis of a decision which has already been taken by the court, that within one of Delhi's premier institutions, a notable professor that had influence over teachings of young people, the next generation of India, has been convicted of having links, not sympathies, not a moral argument for, but having links with those conducting antithetical, anti-India activities, trying to sworn to overthrow the Indian state. Now, of course, he was teaching English at Ram Lal College and, of course, had been a member of the Revolutionary Democratic Front. But the bottom line is he is a professor. He was, at a given point of time, in charge of educating the next generation of India. There is a very important, crucial, but at the same time vexatious and vicious in some quarters debate that is going on in this country over the polarization of our campuses. You've seen the massive debate that's happened in JNU, where the government of the day, the ruling party, has said that antithetical, anti-Indian elements have been operating within the campus for years. Now you've seen the big debate that has happened in the past 2 or 3 weeks in Delhi University, where again a war has been taken place, a war of words is taking place, as well as a war of protest taking place between a left camp and a right camp, between the ABVP and the leftist unions, over the same cause, that there are within the ranks of the campus those who are propagating links and logics and theories that are against the Indian state. On the other hand, there is a very viable argument happening in this country that the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the ability to take up a cause in a non-violent fashion, in a non-violent struggle, must be preserved, which is the foundation of Indian democracy. So on both ways, this is an extremely vexatious issue, and the conviction that has already happened is going to have serious repercussions, serious precedents are going to be set on that larger debate which has been happening in India.
Right. Well, Rishabh, we also expect a political debate to be kicked off by this, isn't it?
You can expect once we get a conviction in terms, because if this is limited to only one individual, then it can be taken as a one-off case. But if there is the larger cause and a larger danger that this is not just one individual, that there is something deeper in this that transcends the boundaries of having an ideological sympathy. There is a difference between having ideological sympathy, then propagating violence and having direct links with those groups who are operating against India. Those very same groups of the Naxals and Maoists who are killing CRPF soldiers, who are killing Indian Jawans, who are fighting a war to overthrow the Indian state. Now, to have an ideological sympathy for those who claim they've been left out of the system, those who claim that they don't have voices within the system, is different. Having direct links to them and propagating their violent cause is different. And finding that difference, that line that separates the two, is going to be the crux of not only an academic argument, but a very important political argument, because nationalism, Meghna, has now emerged as the narrative of the ruling dispensation. They are projecting themselves on the basis of protectors of India, of the Lord Protectors of India. And if that is the ruling narrative, then what happens with individuals who within established academic ranks in one of the premier universities of Delhi University are being convicted of having links to anti-national elements, then certainly this feeds into a larger political narrative also, and a lot of definition making has to happen today.
Absolutely. This news piece needs to be looked at with the larger rubric of the ideological war over nationalism as well. Well, thank you so much, Rishabh and Vaishnavi, for joining us with all your inputs and perspectives. But